Hello, welcome to the Tree Academy webinar today with Dr. Andrea Agnini from Modena. We have a hot topic today. My name is Holger Kast. I am the head of training education for TRI, and I'm going to moderate this webinar. There are certain rules for the webinar. If you have questions during Andrea's presentation, please write them on the right side in the toolbar, and I'm going to pass them at the end of Andrea's presentation. I'm going to pass them to Andrea, and he can answer them. If there's too many questions, he is going to answer, or we're going to answer them afterwards via email. So today's topic is a hot topic, the digital dental receipt concept. Before I pass the word to Andrea, I would like to introduce you to some TRI products which are absolutely necessary to do a full digital workflow. And therefore, in the TRI system, we have some unique and special products which allows a clear digital workflow. And here you can see some parts of our digital family. Sorry. And here on the left side, you can see our multi-unit tie base on the left right side. I can't see my cursor right now. I'm sorry. And in the middle part, this is maybe the focus we have in the presentation of Andrea today. You can see underneath, you can see a tie base. I can't see my cursor. I have to, sorry, I have to explain you without my cursor. And so in the middle, you see our TRI tie base, which is a unique tie base, which is individualizable. And I saw just before Andrea's presentation, and he's going to explain in a case how this works. But it's very important to understand that our tie base, for example, is tie base which you have one product, but you can have 4 different designs and you can individualize it. Left side, besides this angulated screw channel, in this picture you see our existing scan body, and we have a new scan body which is a unique product as well, and I'm going to take the chance to introduce you first to the tie base. On the left side you see the tie base as it is in its full version, and you see cutting lines, a horizontal one and an angulated one, and this makes it possible that you can do these 4 different design possibilities out of this tie base. So in the computer, in the software, you have 4 different design possibilities. The long one for maybe long grounds, so you have the most support for your cementing, for your bonding between the tie base, the implant, and the crown on top. The second one is the shortened one. That's just a straight line, the horizontal line. And then there's the angulated one, which is, I think, the best support for in the aesthetic zone for upper front teeth. And then you have the combination between the cutting horizontal and the angulated cutting on the right side. And with these 2 right versions, you can use our angulated screwdriver, which you saw on the slide before, and you can bend your screw channel up to 20 degrees. And so this is a big advantage, especially in the aesthetic zones. Also, as I just said, we have a new scan body, which is also an open tray impression post. I think this is the right thing to have the combination between the analog world into the digital world, and we call our TRI 3D Touch impression post. And you can see here on that slide, on the right side, you see the impression post itself. And it is the first open tray impression post which you don't need worldwide, the first where you don't need a screwdriver anymore. So you have this handle on top, you use it easily in the patient's mouth, you tighten it up in the patient's mouth, you screw it scan body or this open tray impression post into the implant, and then on the final moment you break the part off, and then you have easily a scan body, fully scan body. We narrowed out the proximal side so it fits into very narrow spaces, And then after you did a scan, an intraoral scan, you are able to anyways use it as an open tray impression post, because in some cases the dental technician wants to have a blaster model anyways. And so this is the two combinations you can use this 3D touch impression post. But enough for my words. I would like to introduce you to Andrea Agnini and his brother. I think, as I just hear before our webinar, we are live here, and Andrea was still in an emergency of a patient. So he just came 1 minute before we start this webinar. And I think you told me Alessandro is joining the webinar maybe for a second if this emergency case is solved in your practice in Modena. And I would like to pass the word to you. Please go ahead, and we switch the presentation files to your computer. Give me a second.
Okay. Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello, Andrea.
You should see my screen right
In
now.
a
Just
second. Now.
okay. Okay. Now you should see my screen and the first slide of the
Perfect.
presentation. Am I right,
Yes.
Olger?
Yes, perfect. You can go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. So for to start, we would like my brother and myself to thank Tree Implant and of course Olga for the invitation to this webinar and discussing about really this odd topic that nowadays is like uh, broaden the horizon. And of course, it's a big pleasure for us. So thanks for the introduction and for the invitation. And the topic of today, as you can see here, is digital dentistry. And inside digital dentistry, us and our team, we created a sort of concept that we like to call the digital dental recipe concept, because what we think about digital dentistry is that most of the time we just see one piece of the puzzle, but we are missing to see the big picture. And so the purpose of our lecture today is to show you the big picture for concerning like implant digital prosthetic dentistry. This is going to be our topic. And as we were mentioning to you before, yes, Alessandro is inside an emergency. We are live from our office. Today we are in Sassuolo. Here are a few of the images and few of the things that we would like to share with you before to start. We do have our Instagram page that you can for sure double check and share and ask a question, not only on the Instagram page but also on the Facebook page, which is probably the easiest way of communicating with us. Also, if you have any question after this webinar or in the following days, you can just liking the page, which is Studio Agnini #Digital Dental Revolution. You can easily shoot us a message and we will be answering. We have like a big team which we call DDR team, Digital Dental Revolution team, because this is the title of the English version of the book that together with Quintessence we published back in 2015, and thanks to which we were able to share our learning curve on digital dentistry. Moreover, we do have a website which is www.studiagnini.it that you are completely welcome to join, especially in its reserved area, because by clicking on the reserved area and by filling up your name, your last name, and your email, you will be receiving a link asking for a password. The password is going to be 3 for the next week, and you will be able to download several portions of the slides of today and also some of the most up-to-date articles on digital dentistry that we will be anyhow discussing today. But entering immediately in the topic, we are discussing about digital dentistry, but to start, we need to define what digital dentistry is all about, which is basically creating new digital workflows, which they should simplify, they should be smart, and they should create more predictable restoration. They should basically simplify our life. And what is a digital workflow? Basically, digital workflow is the summary of all the steps that, starting from the patient's mouth, are needed to finalize the case in a digital environment. Of course, all of these two definitions, they should be seen inside the combination of quality that never has to be underestimated, that never has to be brought down, by entering digital dentistry, but also the time cost benefits ratio. And also we always to be focused on the patient, because we are living in the patient-centered care era, and so the patient concern and the patient quality of life also during the treatment plan should be our first goal. In digital dentistry, if we want to obtain the best and the most out of digital dentistry, we should try to be in a completely digital environment from A to Z. And this is why we want to share with you this simple workflow, which is basically a night guard, which was completely digitally produced. And no matter what, as you can appreciate here, no matter what the complexity of the workflow that we are approaching with our digital instrumentation, we will always have three main features inside the digital workflow. The first step is going to be all the time the data acquisition that can be done, for example, with the intra-oral scanning. And already by utilizing the intra-oral scanning, besides the comfort of the patient, which is of course a great advantage during the impression taking, but look here, we are taking a night guard. So it's something that we do that everybody of us doing on a daily routine in our offices. And the challenge of this appointment is to understand if with the bite registration that we have detected, we do have enough clearance. Well, look here, with the intraoral scanner, you have the opportunity to immediately control if you have enough clearance, and you can immediately measure it before having the patient leaving your office. So this is quality control up front, and this is what digital dentistry is all about. We have a quality control up front that prevents us to make mistakes. That's the great advantage. And once we are happy with what we have acquired, we send all the files through the cloud to our lab technician, which is going to, through specific software, elaborate our files, creating completely digital. So having all the major variables of the situation, in this case of the night guard, under control, creating a digital project, which will then produced and tested in the patient's mouth. So you see that data acquisition, data elaboration, and data production, which is another great topic today, because data production more and more is done through the help of 3D printers, and so 3D printers is just another piece of the puzzle that we need always to consider. And so, of course, if we have the big picture in front of us, if we have like the appropriate indication, the correct application, and of course, as I wrote before, a teamwork approach, digital workflow, especially in fixed implant prosthetic, in fixed prosthodontic and in implant dentistry, is going to be the game changer of our daily clinical routine, because it will reduce the production cost, it will increase the time efficiency, and without forgetting that it satisfies incredibly the patient's perception. So by moving forward, let's see what is going to be the schedule of the day. For the next hour, we will try to answer why, where, and how new technologies are entering in the implant prosthetic workflow. But we will also discuss what we need to be completely digital. And we will discuss also, is it always the same if you are taking an impression of a single abutment or two or three implants next to each other compared to a full arch, or probably we should differentiate in local and general accuracy workflow, and understanding if the reliability and the predictability of this full digital workflow are always the same. And at the end of the day, we will try to tie everything up with some take-home messages. And first of all, let's try to answer why should we focus on digital dentistry, and why should we implement our daily routine with the digital armamentarium. But first of all, think about data collection. Think about to have like a digital data collection, a digital prescription, the patient comfort, the opportunity of reduced passages. And all of these aspects are just aimed to increase efficiency, to increase the communication, to motivate the patient, to explain to the patient what is better. But also, if you want to do more research, we have like digital calipers which are helping us in being more predictable also, and in standardize our way of doing research, not only our clinical routine. And when digital technologies enters in the prosthetic workflow, well, we were discussing about data collection, so we can digitalize the patient from the very beginning, and then we can utilize the digital pictures, the digital intraoral scanner to create like a digital diagnostic workflow, which is extremely powerful, not only for communication with the patient but also in team decision making with all the components of our dental team. We can simulate dental treatment. We can, as I was mentioning to you before, have a quality control approach up front so we can prevent to make mistake. And then when we are finalizing the restoration, we will see this in a minute, we have the opportunity to do this copy-paste dentistry that probably has been the paradigm shift of digital dentistry, without forgetting where we started. CAD/CAM technologies that already 20 years ago increased the quality, increased the efficiency, and gave us the opportunity to work with the state-of-the-art materials. And think about data collection phase. I was mentioning to you the opportunity of like having a digital diagnostics. Here, with this new application from the Fradianis group, which is called guided aesthetic treatment, we have the opportunity to create a facial, from the facial to the intraoral analysis, completely in a digital environment. We can have information that, and we can add videos and pictures inside this application in order really to have like the big picture of the patient, the big diagnostic picture of the patient in front of us, and share it with our lab, and then creating our treatment plan decision making. But when it comes to communication with the patient, think about the DSD app, because of course the DSD app, it gives the opportunity to facilitate an extra and intraoral aesthetic and structural evaluation, but you can clearly appreciate also from just this small video, it improved terribly and terrifically, sorry, not terribly, but terrifically, the communication between the team members and the patient gets a better visual perception. We can educate it more, we can motivate it more to accept the treatment planning. And what about implant dentistry? Well, digital technology and implant dentistry are entering in all of these moments that here you see classified into three big main class. We have like the virtual planning phase, the computer guided surgery phase, and the final rehabilitation phase. This is where digital dentistry is entering in the different moments of implant prosthetic dentistry. And we will try to see today how this completely changed our way of working nowadays. But it's very easy for us to understand why digital in implant dentistry. We have to understand, and also it is well explained in the literature, that the positioning of the implants based on the prosthetic treatment plan, which based on the prosthetic treatment plan, it's the fundamental requirement to obtain functional and aesthetic clinical success. And if we have the opportunity to combine all the different diagnostic evaluation to create like a guide that help us placing properly the implant, we are automatically decreasing or at least minimizing the risk and failures and possible complication. This is what we have to understand, and this is a nice article that Léon Pariente and Karim Dada from France are working on, and it is basically telling us that the pink aesthetic score, which is basically exactly a great aesthetic evaluation at the day of the implant insertion and 1 year after, doesn't change if you are utilizing guided surgery. So the pink aesthetic, which is basically the #1 requirement of a successful implant restoration, is not changing if we are placing properly our implant. And this is well explained why one of these cases, this central incisor of this patient, you see the implant placement plays a pivotal role, because if the implant is misplaced, then we can have situations such as this one. Keep in mind that these implants are survived following and according to the Albrechtson criteria. But for sure, according to our patient's criteria, these are big failures that we also need to improve. And most of the time, to manage this kind of complication, we need an interdisciplinary treatment plan, such as, for example, this canine that you see here in this canine implant crown that you see here in the middle of the slide, in where not only the canine was a problem, of course the implant was misplaced, but we also had a mucogingival problem on number 14 and number 15. And so that is why we needed to solve this patient an interdisciplinary treatment plan, which involved periodontist, involved prosthetic dentistry, involved comprehensive care, because we need to rebuild in composite the CJ that was lost on number 14. And so, of course, it's not easy to manage this complication. We like to manage, we don't like to have this complication in our office, even if sometimes it's possible to manage them, thanks also to digital dentistry, because here you see that this patient was solved with the cubical monolithic zirconia restoration at the end. And the great advantage of digital dentistry here was that we were able to copy and paste not only the prosthetic volume that we tested in the patient's mouth through the provisional restoration, but also the emergence profile of the provisional restoration, what is going below the gingiva. And so by copying and replicating this, we are not anymore we are not living in an interpretation era that we leave to our dental technician skills, but it's just an imitation. And so the digital copy paste really gave us the opportunity to standardize also this kind of solution, giving us the opportunity to finalize this restoration. Of course, we need to work with instruments which are accurate. And when it comes to digital dentistry, most of the time we see this word accuracy. And what does accuracy means? Accuracy means that we should have an intra-oral scanner, an instrument which is both true and precise at the same time. We just don't need an instrument which has a high trueness but a low precision. The combination of these two factors, and the definition is written on the slide, it's really the key to obtain an overall acceptable accuracy. And if everything has been done properly, if the treatment plan decision making, the interdisciplinary treatment plan decision making has been done correctly, thanks to the new materials, as I just discussed, cubical zirconia monolithic, and the new technologies, intra-oral scanners, we are able to improve incredibly the quality of life of this patient just by working on the two teeth. But of course, as I was mentioning, it's an interdisciplinary treatment plan. It's not that only digital dentistry, only new material are giving us marginal tissue health and stability. It's just a matter of many different factors through together with the material properties and the prosthetic procedures. We also need the margins position, the marginal precision, the prosthetic contour, the patient compliance, and all these pieces of the puzzle to get assembled together will offering us and to our patient marginal tissue health and stability. And so by entering more in the topic of today, we were mentioning, can we be predictably fully digital all the time? Or maybe it's different when we are talking about local accuracy, so single implant or short span implant bridges, or maybe when we are discussing about full arches, full arch on implant rehabilitation, or like partial dentalism with implant, like the image that you have here on this slide, should we make some further consideration? Let's start answering to our question, focusing first of all on the local accuracy. And as I was mentioning to you before, if we want to be accurate, we just do not need only one piece. We need a combination of technologies, so intraoral scanners, CAD/CAM technologies, milling machines, 3D printers, and materials, such as nowadays we have great material characteristics, such as, for example, PMMA, zirconia, and lithium disilicate. Do not forget that these materials they have great advantages, great structural properties, great optical properties, especially the latest generation of these materials. And these materials are raw industrial materials, so by definition, they do have a better mechanical and chemical properties, especially the PMMA, if we compare it to the traditional acrylic resin, for example. And we will see how can we utilize lithium disilicate and zirconia or PMMA according to the clinical situation that we have to face. Of course, the combination is also of the material is also together with the technologies. And when it comes to intraoral scanners, which is the very first step of and the very first piece of the puzzle, we need to understand that the scanning strategy is one of the most important factor of the whole process chain. And so we need to carefully know the technology behind our system, behind the system that we are utilizing in order to maximize the scanning strategy, which will help us to maximize the accuracy. And why the impression is so important, because if we look at the 3D virtual planning workflow, the impression is the first step of many other different workflows, because we can take a digital impression just to communicate with the patient, just to start collecting information, so data collection done in a digital way. Then we can share this information together with the images, with the pictures, the digital picture to our lab technician, and he can create a digital workshop. Then we also have another piece, the CBCT analysis, which is also digital dentistry, a digital tool. And so CBCTs and STL files and the digital workshop can be merged together to create a 3D planning. 3D planning that might help the clinician and the team to treatment plan the case. And then we can also utilize this 3D planning if we wanted to do a full guided surgery. And one step further, we can also already create the milled PMMA, so the milled PMMA provisional restoration. So then when we are facing a patient before placing the implant, we already have the provisional restoration ready to be positioned on the implant, which was a treatment plan and 3D plan. So you understand that a virtual simulation is offering a powerful instruments for treatment planning, and of course is simplifying the surgical placement and the prosthetic rehabilitation. Obviously, the intraoral scanner is just the first piece of the puzzle, because also the CBCT analysis should be carefully evaluated. Also in the CBCTs, we can create some mistakes, so we can create some inaccuracy in the workflow. So we should be well aware of this, because the possible source of errors can bring to a variation of the position of the implant apex, of the implant axis, and of the implant head. And here on the right side of the slide, you can see listed all the different possibilities in moments in where we can make some mistakes. But we should not forget also that one of the least considered but most important elements when we are talking about guided surgery is the manufacture of the surgical templates. The way it is designed and the way it is produced, because an incorrect shape of the template may result in inadequate stability, and so we can implement mistakes in our implant position. Also, which kind of guided surgery should we do? And which kind of guided surgery are we working with? tooth supported, bone supported, mucosa supported. So all of these information we should keep in consideration. So we should not only focus on the intraoral scanning problems. We should have the big picture clearly in mind if we want to be accurate from A to Z, if we want to be completely digital from A to Z. This is our take-home message for today. And here you see everything that I just said relating to virtual planning and computer-guided surgery in one single screen. And you see that from the initial situation, we have our knowledge. So our knowledge gives the opportunity to create an interdisciplinary treatment plan, so orthodontic, in order to create the correct space to then place the implant, to then have like a nice crown in position. Then we have the digital workshop, we merge it with the CBCT, we have the 3D planning, which of course is giving us a lot of information. Look at the surgical report, how many information we can share with our patient, and then the surgical guide and the provisional restoration immediately position. Of course, the single implant is probably the safer situation in where we can utilize guided surgery, but we also have to analyze the time cost benefits ratio, and so we should really carefully select the case. So case selection, if we want to do guided surgery, case selection is the key in order to understand when to do it, where to do it, trying to avoid mistakes. And we have discussed about 3D planning, we have discussed about computer-guided surgery. Let's discuss about final rehabilitation. So where digital dentistry is giving us advantages in the final rehabilitation workflow. First of all, we should mention the fact that we do have two different workflow, a model-free workflow and a model need workflow. We will see when we need one and when we need the other. Here we have few of the components that we will then discuss more in details that we need to create these workflows. We need, of course, to have a scan body. We need to have an intraoral scanner. We need to have a CAD software in order to coordinate all the information that us as clinicians are sending through the cloud to our lab technician in order to then produce through a milling machines the final restoration. And this is a case in where we are doing a model-free workflow, first of a single implant crown in the posterior area, first for the creation of the posterior provisional restoration, a PMMA crown, and you can appreciate here the different components that we need: the scan body, the intraoral impression, of course we also need the opposing arch intraoral impression, and then we need the lab technician at the CAD software to elaborate digitally the provisional restoration, and then the production, in this case of the PMMA restoration, through a milling machine which is going to mill a PMMA blank, and cemented the titanium base, which is strictly related to the scan body that we are utilizing, and this is something that we're going to discuss in a little while, in order to finalize our model-free workflow. And here you see another case. We have seen one single crown. We can see also two adhesions crown on implant, and this is a case that was done several years ago, but you can appreciate that, of course, the treatment plan decision making and the traditional background of the clinician is extremely important, because here we have two different clinical scenarios to manage. We have like a post-extractive scenario and an inlet ridge scenario in where to place two implants. So we need where to place the implant, how to place the implant, how to achieve primary stability in order to immediately load the provisional restoration, in order to maintain the soft tissue volume buccopalatally, and in order to finalize the restoration in one single shot from the implant to the from the implant impression to the final rehabilitation, just one single appointment. We scan, we plan, we restore. Of course, we need to have a combination of technologies, traditional knowledge, and new materials. new available materials that are offering us great strength and great optical properties to maximize the aesthetic and the quality of our work that, as I said at the very beginning of the day, never have to be decreased. And so we have discussed in the posterior areas, we have this opportunity to do a model-free workflow. But in the anterior area, we have like one step more, because most of the time in the anterior area, we don't want to go for a monolithic restoration. We want to go for a porcelain fused to zirconia restoration. And so what are the digital implant workflow key points? So in other words, what is the recipe, exactly as a cookbook, to create and produce this restoration? You see that here we have 7 different steps, starting from the intra-oral scannings, passing through the scan body, passing through the best fit done in the CAD software, passing to the knowledge of the tooth link, passing then to the production phase, the cementation of the tooth link, to the final restoration. So we have 7 steps that you can classify, guess what, in 3 main steps. A digital workflow is always made of acquiring data, elaborating data, and production of this data. And the data acquisition sometimes, like especially in this case, it's strictly related to the clinical side, whether the elaboration and the production is always most of the time related to the lab side. And you can, especially for the newbies, for the people that for the first time is facing digital dentistry, they should start thinking, oh my God, this is too difficult. I mean, too many passages, too many things to know. But I just want to make you think. Let's think about what should we do to take a traditional implant workflow impression. The key points are not 7, are 20. Are 20 if we want to take an accurate traditional implant impression. And if you think carefully, these 20 steps are just the first piece of the puzzle, because the 50% of the potential inaccuracies are attributed to the impression phase, but the other 50% are attributed to the dental laboratory procedure. So we have 20 steps just for the implant impression, not thinking about the lab technician workflow. And so think about that most probably digital impression will have, and it has its own criticism, but also traditional impression has its own criticism. For example, the choice of which impression technique to utilize, which material, and of course, by utilizing the material, which distortions we have. Should we utilize an open tray or a closed tray impression? How many implants should we have? Are they angulated in between each other? And so think about that digital impressions seems to improve and to eliminate errors and material defects such as voids, bubbles, inadequate polarization, distortions. We can do repeated scanning if we are not happy with the first one. So intraoral scanning technology is a great tool that can simplify our life, but not only our life, because less patient discomfort. We can be great, we can have like a great time efficient ratio. We can simplify our clinical procedure. Think about the fact that we don't need anymore the plaster cast. We are improving the communication both with the patients, so improving the treatment plan acceptance percentage, and also with the dental team. So we are always on the same page through these great tools. Obviously, not all the intraoral scanners are the same, so we should understand the way to classify them. We can classify them through their technology, through the fact if they are color or with no color, or through the fact if they are powder or powder-free systems. Discussing about technologies, here are listed the 4 main technologies that are representing nowadays the intraoral scanner world portfolio. the triangularization, the confocal microscopy, the stereophotogrammetry, and the active wavefront sampling. We don't have to become engineers. I don't want to scare you. We just need to understand that we need to have a software which is accurate, a software which has a resolution which is given by the density of the point cloud, and then it is essential for us to visualize these details, and also these points, they should merge together properly through the software. So basically, long story short, we need an instrument that has a good eye, the resolution, and a good brain, the software, in order to merge this and to have like a combination of quality and quantity, which is going to be positively affecting our impression making. Then, of course, we need to understand what are the scans that we need to understand, that we need to detect. So not only the scanning strategy, but also what are the scans that we need to take and to share to our lab technician to finalize this restoration. So you see that I'm starting from the intra-oral scanner, and I will bring you till the end of this restoration exactly as a recipe from A to Z. So we need to take the provisional restoration scan, we need to take the scan body scan, the soft tissue situation scan, the opposing arch scan, and the bite registration scan. But the most important scan, especially in the anterior area, for a single implant restoration, is this scan, which is the provisional restoration chair side scan. Why? Because we know that as soon as we unscrew the provisional restoration, the gingival tends to shrink, whether PMMA or acrylic resin is not shrinking. And so, as we did for the very first case of today, we can copy and paste the emergence profile of this provisional restoration. And this passage takes 30 seconds, 45 seconds. We can do it in a traditional way as well, but we need to have a silicon index, we need to have like an analog, we need to have 2 different materials and 9 different steps. So it's more time consuming and less accurate. Here in 30 seconds, we are sending the most important scan to our lab. Boom, 30 seconds and we are done. Then the scan bodies. Scan bodies, when it comes to implant prosthetic dentistry, it's really something that we need to address carefully, because our complex implant positioning transfer devices basically are our digital impression copies. But the fact is that scientific information behind these scan bodies, it's really low, not only from clinical perspective, but also from the implant company perspective. So working with implant companies that understood the importance of the technologies and understood the importance of developing appropriate and accurate instruments for digital impression, it's really the way to do it. Because if not, you're gonna end up with many different mistakes. Because look here, look the different scan bodies that we have utilized, my brother and myself, in our learning curves. You see that we have many different designs, we have different materials, we have different technologies behind. We have completely different features for each single of these scan bodies that you see here listed. And this is important for you to understand, because a scan body gives the information not only of the implant position. So you're not sharing only the implant position with your lab technician, but you're also sharing the titanium base to utilize. And if you want to produce a model, like in the anterior areas, we will need to produce a model, and you will see in a while, you need to have a digital implant analog. And the digital implant analog information are related to the scan bodies that you have utilized. And most scan bodies in the market, available in the market, they do not have the digital implant replica. So you cannot produce digitally a model if you're working with the wrong scan bodies. And the scan bodies mainly is made with these 3 different regions. We have the scan regions, which is usually on top and is where all the information are, and we need to carefully detect all of this information. Then we have the body, all of these areas, sorry. Then we have the body, which basically the body will help the lab technician to do the best fit, and I will explain to you what is the best fit. And then we have the base, which is engaging with our implant. The base, it's better, and here on the left side you see the three implant scan body. This base, it's important that is titanium in order to have like a connection which is titanium against titanium, so to improve the accuracy. This is the 3D touch. So you see, I'm just sharing with you many different scan bodies materials and many different scan bodies designs in order for you to understand that by choosing the scan bodies, you understand you have like a different thing to detect, and you have different things to know. And the 3D touch scan body, it's extremely interesting because since we are still in a moment of like switching from analogic to digital, this will give you the opportunity both of taking the impression traditionally or digitally according to the case that you have in front. So this has been, I think, an extremely smart innovation from Dreamblood. The next step, the best fit. So we have seen how to take an impression, what are the intraoral scanners requirement, what are the scan bodies requirement, and now let's see how to do the best fit. So right now we are sending everything to the lab, and the first thing that the lab has to do is the best fit. So basically, in other words, he has a library of scan body in where is going to take the scan body library and is going to merge it with what we scanned in the mouth. So basically it's doing a quality control of what we have scanned. And when the best fit is appropriate, like in this case, we have this kind of colors on the screen. If there are any mistakes, the lab technician can call us and prevent to move forward in the workflow, avoiding then mistakes and losing time and losing quality of our restoration. So you see that scan bodies, once again, here we have another image, are extremely important, but also the knowledge of the scan body. Also during the best fit is important. Here you see another shapes of a scan body in where there is a scan noise. You can see here inside this blue circle. It's in an area that we don't care, like also the hole we don't care. So if there is a scan noise in that area, the lab technician can simply cut it and then do the best fit and moving forward with the lab, with the workflow. So what I'm mentioning, I'm mentioning all of these things because I want you to understand that even small errors in this upstream process can accumulate, and not is not necessary fault of your intraoral scanning technique of your intraoral scanners. So that's why it's important to have the big picture in front of you, and it's important to work with a company that is developing on a daily basis new innovation for digital prosthetic workflows. Because as I mentioned to you, the scan body choice determines which titanium base to utilize, and a titanium base can have many different problems, starting from insufficient retention for bonding, the cementation, gray color that can transfer through the soft tissue. So you have to understand all of these things, because if you want to create a screw retain solution, you have your implant, you have your T-base, on top of which is cement your final restoration. And so why it's important to work with um, appropriate T-base, because for example the T-base of 3 implant are offering 4 cutting options. So this gives you more freedom of movement, because there are some, not all the cases are the same. There are cases in where you need more height of the T-base to get enough retention, and some other case in where you do not have enough space, and so you can cut down the titanium base according to what is telling the CAD software. Then you have the opportunity to have like, since this cementation should be done sometimes without the model, the lab technician should have like a point of referee in order to properly cement in the right position the final crown. We have like a rough turn surface to increase once again the retention. We have both the engaging and a non-engaging titanium base, and also we have the pink anodized color for a better aesthetics. So you see that by taking in consideration all the problems that the T-base in our learning curve gave us, we have companies such as Implant that are developing these uh, tools in a great fashion, because also when it comes to full arch rehabilitation, for example, or in cases in where we need like to utilize multi-unit abutments, we do also have the multi-unit tie base. We have 4 customized options. Also here we have the pink color, so we have like a freedom of movement that doesn't affect our final restoration, but is increasing the quality, it is increasing the options that we can choose. At this moment, once we understood all of these importance, the best fit has been done. The titanium base has been chosen because is the one related to the scan body that we have utilized. The lab at the CAD can design the final restoration, defining the edges of the crown, choosing the proper shape of the tooth or in the CAD library, and modeling the crown at a given occlusion. As I'm mentioning to you, this is a porcelain fused to zirconia restoration project, and so we will need to produce the master model. And as I mentioned in the very first slide, the master model should be produced completely in a digital environment. We want to be completely digital to get the best out of these great technologies. And we have many different ways of reducing the model: additive ways, 3D printers, or the subtractive ways. What is the best one? I will answer you in a second. But why we need a master digital model? Because we need to have support for layering. So the lab technician needs support for layering, needs to control the occlusion, needs to control the contact points. He has also the opportunity, and gives also the opportunity to support for polishing and for bonding the titanium base. And here, this is another features which is important for you to understand. The 3D printed technology is related to the opportunity to have a digital implant analog, because we cannot utilize the traditional dentistry analog to place in a master digital model. We need to have a company that produces not only the scan bodies, not only the titanium base, but also the digital implant analog related to the scan body that we have utilized. So this is important. This is the digital implant analog from Implant that is a snap-on analog, which is extremely accurate. It gives us the opportunity to maximize the aesthetic in this kind of aesthetic restoration. Which kind of technologies are behind the 3D printing production of the master model? Many different technologies. Here our list is just a few, and few articles are telling us that probably right now polyjet technique is exhibiting the highest accuracy for 3D printing of models. Of course, also here our lab technician should have a knowledge and should choose not only the best 3D printer, but also the best material to work with. And then the artistic skill of our lab technician is never have to be underestimated, and digital dentistry is not replacing it, because he has to understand and he has to know how to create the final aesthetic, how to utilize restoration, how to utilize the ceramic masses in order to maximize the aesthetic. Very last step is the T-base cementation. You see here that right now we have the titanium base inside, cemented inside our crown, and we are ready to deliver the final restoration to our lab. Of course, we can finalize the restoration under a completely digital workflow, but without forgetting the fact that traditional dentistry, the traditional background, is of great importance, because the traditional background really treatment plan the case. The 3D planning gives us the opportunity to decide where to place the implant. The guided surgery helped us in positioning properly the implant, and then we finalize, always in a digital fashion, this restoration, but having the big picture. So this crown looks nice, not only thanks to the intraoral scanning, but thanks to the scan bodies, thanks to the lab technician, thanks to the T-base, thanks to the digital analog that we have utilized. So making a long story short and trying to give you an answer on local accuracy, for sure we can have like full digital workflows, because intraoral scanners right now are reliable working tools that are providing like a saving of time, accuracy, and ergonomics. Virtual planning and guided surgery are extremely reliable tools to implement the workflow accuracy. The combination of the intraoral scanner potential with the monolithic material to utilize our suggestion in posterior areas gives us the opportunity to offer to the patient a one appointment approach, so from the impression to the final restoration. And in the most aesthetic areas, as I mentioned to you, the digital production of the model. So don't forget to use a scan body, and a company that offer also the digital implant analog are necessary to implement the final aesthetical outcome. And what about full digital workflow? Should we, what about general accuracy? What about full arches? Should we predictably be full digital when it comes to full arches? Are these three moments always 100% accurate when it comes to full arches? For sure, we have the opportunity to utilize these technologies also in full arches. For example, to create like a 3D planning starting from the face of the patient, in order to design starting from the face, so starting from the facial analysis, a 3D smile facially driven tooth positioning. We can decide whether we need the pink artificial component. In these big cases, always having the face of the patient in front of us, as bringing the evaluation of the digital smile design from 2D to 3D, planning the ideal procedure, simulating the perfect 3D reconstruction, merging this information together with the CBCT analysis. For sure, we have these opportunities. These opportunities are here to help us and are here to stay, but predictably all the time. Well, this is case selective. We need to carefully select the cases, because in very extreme situation, maybe we need to have, instead of a fully guided surgery, a more dynamic surgery. And not all the time we have the opportunity to utilize a full digital workflow for the production of the provisional restoration. Of course, we need to utilize multi-unit abutment, because multi-unit abutment in full arches for us are mandatory. You can appreciate that we can be accurate, but sometimes we have to hybridize the treatment plans in order to maintain this predictability, because we are not still, unfortunately, 100% predictably. We do have the technologies, we do have the materials, because look, the time machine of the materials that incredibly implement the quality, the efficiency of our full arch restoration when it comes to final restoration, but being completely digital. So trying to be like a completely digital from A to Z, such as, for example, this workflow. For sure, we need another webinar to discuss, because there are many different variables that we need to understand, many different variables that we need, starting from the scanning strategy, start passing through the scan bodies, passing through the copy, occlusal, copy paste, monolithic solution. So in several cases is possible to offer a full digital workflow to our patients, also when it comes to full arches. But the question is, are we predictable? 100% of the time, because this is what our patients want. This is what the literature is trying to focus on. And here are just a few of the conclusion of the articles that are available in the literature. There are significant differences between the digital systems. The scan strategy and the clinical expertise, and of course the clinical learning curve is are crucial. We have to understand which are the variables in full arch digital in a full arch digital impression. What are the scan bodies that we should utilize? And that's why we are collaborating with 3Implant, because we are innovating on a daily basis new uh, scan bodies in order to one day obtaining a predictability that sometimes and nowadays is still not present. So this is what we need for you to understand. Here we have on the left side a case in where we were not predictable, and on the right side a case in where we were predictable. And when we are predictable, we can finalize the restoration completely digital. We can through the by means of prototypes, PMMA prototypes, we can test the aesthetic, we can test the function, we can test the accuracy of the impression. The patient can be involved in the decision making of we need or we don't need a pink artificial component to maximize the aesthetics. So the PMMA prototype, especially in full arch restoration, are pivotal to create a rigorous clinical and radiographic evaluation. And we will be extremely happy to offer a full arch digital workflow webinar for you to understand all of these different parameters. Which are the materials? What are the solutions nowadays that we are utilizing? We are not going anymore for full monolithic zirconia rehabilitation, but we like to have like a combination of a titanium bar on top of which we are cementing a cubical monolithic zirconia restoration. Sure, we do have like a screw retained prosthesis, avoiding the cementation, avoiding the cementation, and having something which is easily retrievable. So to conclude, in full arches, are we full digital? Are we full digital? Not all the time, because first of all, as I mentioned, guided surgery should be utilized carefully. Case selection and restorative driven plan are the key. And scanning a fully edentulous patient still remains more difficult than to scan an area of more limited extent. So this is where we are going. This is exactly where where is going to be the next step. Right now we are in a case selection phase, but I'm sure that in the next webinar we will be able to share with you something that little by little you can start utilizing on your clinic in a more daily based routine. So to take home message, I'm perfectly on time. Which are the take home message? Think about digital dentistry like an everyday tool. We have started from a night guard. We move forward with a single crown in the posterior area, single crown in the anterior areas, smile makeovers on natural dentitions. We are implementing more and more on full arches. It helps us in 3D planning. It helps us in communication with the patient, but it's helping us also in a research tool. Look here, the same patient has been scanned before the implant was placed, before the tooth was extracted, and at the day of the surgery, and also during the follow-up. So thanks to these novel software algorithms, we are able to precisely superimpose 3D images. And think about the potential of monitoring tools, which is huge, because we can monitor the tooth wearing parafunctional patient, we can monitor the gingival healing after an immediate implant provisionization, as it is this case. We can have an objective and accurate modality to treat our patient, and they can understand them. And especially, that's another important thing that you should think, presenting this to the patient, it's easy to understand. So a lot of advantages with digital dentistry. Obviously, we need to focus on literature. We need to read what the literature is telling us, but think about as well to read the literature on digital dentistry with the extreme criticism, because the rapid evolution of every single step of the digital workflow imposes the dental team not only to be constantly up to date, but to critically review the current literature, because the scientific progress is moving slower than the industrial progress. So this is what we need to be aware of. And we need to be aware of the fact that the traditional dentistry is what is still guiding the way. Treatment plan decision making is made thanks to our to our traditional knowledge. The way we are doing our surgeries, the way we are doing our preparation are related to our traditional background. This is the key. This is really the key. We need a learning curve, but now is relatively fast for the clinician. Digital scanning, as I said, provides an ergonomic working situation which is standardizing the way. We need digital model, but we need to produce digital model properly. Maximum interexpression restoration, so single cases, simple cases, full digital workflow, 1 or 2 appointment workflow, it's here to stay. It's already reality. Complex cases, we still need to optimize a predictable full digital workflow, but we are almost there. So the very last slide, if we want to really offer a service to our patients, we need first of all to understand their needs, their preferences. We need to carefully read the literature, and so working with evidence-based dentistry, knowing what is the best current scientific evidence, but also the clinical expertise and the new technologies evolution should be in our clinical portfolio to then maximize the digital dentistry and to implement digital dentistry in our daily clinical routine. Just would like to thank you very much for your attention. This is our team. My brother is here in the middle. It has been a pleasure for us being here, and we hope to see you soon in the next webinar. And I'm here ready to answer to your question if you have any answer. If you have any
Thank
question.
you, Andrea. Thank you very much for this impressive presentation and introduction into the details actually of the digital workflows. And I have some questions here, but at the end you answered so many questions already, because for example, there was one question, and in the time I'm asking you the questions, I'm changing to my slides again, because I have also some announcement to make before you leave the webinar. There's a special offer I want to give to the people who are doing this webinar, so take a few minutes more. One question there is from Dr. Chadi Mauru from Lebanon. He's asking, are you still use blaster models in your daily business, or only 3D printed models?
99%, 99.9%, either no model, so model-free workflow, or model workflow but 3D printed.
Okay, that is a lot. And
But yeah, let me make a consideration in this. If you really want to make a change, a paradigm shift in your clinic, in your office, and you want to embrace digital dentistry, the best way to embrace digital dentistry is to work to be digital on a daily basis. So only if digital dentistry becomes routine, then you will have great benefits out of it. If you're just using it for a guided implant or a few CAD/CAM crowns here and there, you will never get the benefits that is able to give it to you.
Okay, and then I have just popping up one question from Nazar Ehak. Are you 100% digital in full arch rehab, or still using traditional impressions in some cases? And when?
Yeah.
I think you answered already the question more or less.
Yeah.
Um,
More,
um,
no, I can. If you want, I
yeah, please,
can
please,
move.
please.
I can be more in detail because, of course, for in 1 hour to give like the big picture, also full arches is very difficult. Because full arches, of course, is the hottest topic when it comes to digital dentistry. Can you do full arches? Can you do fully digital on full arches? There are many variables that we need to consider, and we need to be 100% predictable when we are offering something to our patient. There are a strictly key case selection that happens in our clinic when we have to process digitally or not the full arch cases. Because, for example, an upper arch is easier to do rather than only lower arch. A double full arch is not easy, so we are not still 100% predictable. But once again, as I mentioned, there are many different variables that we will be happy to share in another webinar, just focusing on full arches, because we need
Yeah,
1 hour just for full arches, because sometimes we are able to be completely digital already, but
yeah.
we need to explain carefully why. If not, we are misleading the message.
Okay, and as you already mentioned, we anyways plan already. We don't have the date yet, but in a short future, we're going to have a follow-up webinar with you and your brother. And before that, I would like to offer also or show our participants here that we also have some very little spaces left for the course with the Agnini brothers in Modena. The topic is digital workflow workshop is included with a hands-on. I think you have in your beautiful place some laptops where we can do the whole digital workflow with the participants.
Yeah,
We also have
yeah,
a live surgery. Maybe you can explain for 1 minute a little bit about this course
basically,
because it's quite
first
interesting.
of all, first of all, the course is interesting because our clinic is 5 kilometers from the Ferrari factory.
Yeah,
So you can take the chance first to come to visit us, but first you go to the Ferrari, you get an excuse, and you're going to be already happy about your trip to Italy. And the educational day, it's full of content because we have a live surgery. It's going to be a single implant, not something complicated. A single implant on top of which we're going to take a digital impression, and you will see from A to Z how we take the impression, but also how the lab technician is elaborating first and producing after the PMMA provisional restoration to immediately load on the patient. And then we have different intraoral scanners. We have typodons, so they can try the different scanners. They can also, how can I say? They can also uh, try them on typodons, understanding the differences. We have your scan bodies, so I can explain in details the characteristic of the scan bodies, and plus we have some theoretical action, some other recipes. Today I just showed you a few recipes on implant prosthetic dentistry, but I can show you more in details whatever you like, because we have this recipe already made in our training center. So as you like. We can show as you like. We can show whatever you like.
perfect. Yeah, I think we can go into really into the digital work in this course, and also the coincidence makes it that there is another course just 2 days before or 1 day before the course in beautiful Italy, in Zurich, which is quite a beautiful city too. And so we have also for this course, it's advanced tissue level course. It's based on tissue level, but it's fully digital workflows as well in Zurich, including a production site visit. And so for those of you who are listening today, I would like to offer you a special conditions for this combination to go on the course in Zurich and then take the drive actually with me in a bus to Modena the next day. So we can do a combination course. It is an offer for all of the participants from this webinar right now. So if you are interested, please write us an email straight after this webinar on the academy at tri-implants.swiss. And last but not least, I would like to invite you, everybody here, to see our booth at the EAO conference in Lisbon on the 26th to 28th of September, where we are going to show you the next chapter of digital workflow. We present our fully digital, the first fully digital implant, the Matrix implant. And so if you want to know more about this, because this is going to solve a lot of problems we have right now in the analog workflow, also in the digital workflow, we still use tie bases, and we simplify with this new technology. We simplify the digital workflow significantly. So please join us at the AO booth B38. So you're all welcome to visit us there. So thank you very much, Andrea. I'm really looking forward to see you soon at the course in October. And for the participants, please, if you want to have a straight connection to all our dentists who are in the digital and also in the analog world with TRI, you can join us on the Tri Academy community on Facebook, where we share cases, where we ask questions to pass them to colleagues. And so join us, and I say thank you for this amazing webinar. Thank you, Andrea, and see you soon in the AO, for example, in Lisbon.
Yeah, no, we will be there on Thursday, so see you there.
Yeah, okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.